Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Travis Burke, and glad to be here with you today. We're going to do this 30-minute segment and talk to you a little bit about customer service as an extension professional. You know, serving our customers and our clients are very, very important, and as we move into the implementation of our strategic plan, and we talked about high tech, high touch. And what we were meaning by that is we want to not only use all of those technological tools that we have available to work with our clients now, we also were talking about high touch. Not only were we talking about the technology piece, but we're talking about high touch in the realm of still holding the work with our volunteers and our clients, that face-to-face touch where we are seeing them and greeting them one-on-one and face-to-face. This is very, very important to us. We still want to use the face-to-face and those interactions with our clients, which are very, very important. And you know as well as I do that as we work with our clients, that working with them on a day-to-day basis and eye to eye, it's very, very important that we treat them as a customer. But would we consider them customers or do we consider them clients? And some may tend to differ, but some of the things that we look for as a customer, we're thinking about those things such as, do we get what we're paying for? Do we pay the price, and then are we getting the value for the price that we're paying? When we do educational programs, are they consistent? Are they reliable? Do we give those same types of stellar educational programs every time that we do programs? And you can see the comparison here. These are the things that we look for as a customer. We want those types of things. Consistency, we want them stellar every time, and we want them on time, and we want them accurate. So those are some of those same principles as an extension professional that we like to address. So let's talk about service with a smile, and are we delivering those educational programs with a smile consistently, just as a customer would like them? So let's get started and talk about what the definition of a customer is. When you think about a customer, this is a person that will go and purchase goods. They go to the counter, purchase a product after they've chosen the product, and then they basically get what they paid for. So you're going in, buying goods, and you're purchasing them. Now, you also could think about a customer as a guest. If you're, say, going to a hotel and you're having lodging there, and as a guest, or if you're a patron and you're going to the same restaurant every time, you're going there as a patron because you like the type of thing that they're providing you. It's good. You like the atmosphere. You like the presentation of whatever it is you're getting. So that's why you go back and you continue going back time after time. So that's kind of where we are when we're an extension clientele. So are our clientele really customers? And you can see in this slide here, the customers all look different. You can see from the pop-ups above them that some of them may be thinking differently. Some of them may say, oh, I think I want it this way, or I want it like that. So our customers are different in the way that we address them. So we're going to talk about some things, and we're going to talk about how we're going to go about looking at these different tools and the way that we're providing these tools. So what do customers want? Okay, first of all, customers are going to want consistency. They're going to want the same product. They're going to want it the same way. They're going to want it promptly. They're going to want the product on time, and they're going to want a stellar product every time. They're going to want it sort of like a car dealer, no low hassle, so to speak. No hassle, low hassle, and you want them also to make sure that they are providing that product, without the hassle that you would get sometimes that we compare, say, a car dealer. And then you want it courteous and friendly. You want the service to be courteous. You want them to be nice. You don't want to go in and this person is grumpy and you're looking at them like, I don't know if I want them to be here or not. So you don't want to go back, and you're not going to be a repeat customer if you're having people to treat you in that manner. So these are all things basically that our customers want. So let's sort of talk about some of the top 10 things that when I feel that over the years and working with our clientele that our clients want as customers. So let's go and take a look at those as we look at those top 10 highlights. First of all, we want to develop a base. We want to look at where they are. You want to look at, say, how do I help you? And when we're talking about a base, we're looking at where do you find them? How do you keep them? How do you manage your customer base? And are you dealing with the right people, the right place, and the right time? So as an extension professional, when we look at developing a base, what we're talking about is if you're a 4-H agent, say for example, you're trying to recruit volunteers. So how do you develop that core base of volunteers? So you're going to look at how do you go find them? How do you keep them and manage them? And are you developing that base using the right people at the right place at the right time? So first of all, let's develop your base. And then secondly, after you're getting those volunteers, how do you engage them? If you're an agricultural agent and you're looking at ways that you can engage volunteers, well, let's think about them as, say, if you are doing an on-farm test, or if you're using them as a young farmer organization and you're trying to get them to help you to recruit people. So let's think about how you might go about doing that. You want to make sure that you're providing them with meaningful experiences. Are they episodic type volunteers? And what we mean there is, are these people that you're going to use from time to time? Or are there people that you're going to use at a more long-term basis? If they're those that you're using on a long-term basis, then you're going to think about how you remember them. What are some things that you can do to try to retain and to sustain this volunteer base? So how do you go about remembering them? You may say, well, I want to maybe drop them a note, or maybe send them a card from time to time. Maybe if it's a special occasion, or if it's maybe just a simple email that you want to do to remember them. So you think about how you might want to go about doing that, and then making sure that you remember them once you try to develop them as your base, and how you might continue engaging them. Let's look at the third thing here. You want to effectively communicate to your volunteers. Now, communication, I've always said, is very, very key, that communication goes from the top down and from the bottom up. And I know you think about as an extension in the organization, this is a really big, huge, hairy monster. We have 100 different counties and the Cherokee Reservation, and then there are 1,000 different ways that we do things. And oftentimes, as an extension professional, we say, well, those people in Raleigh, they're going to tell us what to do, and this is how it's going to be done. But it's really not the case, because we want to consider our field faculty as our grassroots people. These are people that we look at from the base, from the ground up, and these are our people, as we say, that are out in the grassroots level, and these are our boots on the ground. So we want to make sure that people at the ground level are communicated to, as well as at the top. So we want to know what you're doing out in the field, as well as you want to know what is going on in Raleigh. The same thing works out in the county level. When you've got volunteers, and when you've got people that are out there working, you want to make sure that you have people that are being interactive. You want people to know what you're doing, and you want to know what they're doing. So how do you make sure that this is happening? First of all, you want to communicate in your office, and you want to manage your volunteers or your people on a personal level. Some people want to be managed one way and some want to be managed a different way, which is very important, very critical. You want to communicate to them clearly and being straightforward when you do this. You want to make sure that if you're sending out information pieces, you want to make sure that you're being straightforward in the way that you're communicating. You want to be clear, you want to be succinct, and you want to make sure that you're doing it this way every time. And then, by golly, you want to make sure that you're showing leadership. They're looking to you as an extension professional to show leadership. This is very, very important. And when we say show leadership, you want to not only know the way that you're going, you want to also show the way. So it's very, very important in communications that you take these things in consideration. The fourth thing that I have here we want to talk about is I label them as the 3 Ps. And you can see the 3 building blocks over here. And there's a reason for that. Because one builds upon the other. First of all, we want to make sure that you are persistent in what you're doing. As a client, they want to make sure that you're going to use all reasonable effort to make sure that you're taking care of them and doing what you say you're going to do and doing it persistently, and you want to do it using professionalism. You want to make sure that these people, these volunteers that you're working with, they see you as the professional. We want to make sure that you're being professional in all that you do, because making sure that in a small community in particular, people are going to be watching you. You're the leader of the community. They want you to be professional in the manner in which you take care of your business, and you are going to be expected to do that every time. And then let's talk about passion. Passion is something that we say all the time when we're doing things that we enjoy doing. Now, that could be taken in a different way, but when we say passion, we're talking about doing what you really, really like to do. The volunteers and the people you're working with are going to be able to tell if you're passionate about what you're doing. I like to use a scenario of a pet, or if you go up to a dog or go over to a house and someone has a pet dog, and for some reason that dog knows if you really are going to be a nice person or not. And that's going to be the way that they tend to respond to you. They can sense that. They don't talk, but you can tell about the way that you approach them. Now, sometimes if you go up to a dog and you may not appear to be engaging with them, they're going to say, oh gosh, I don't know if I like this person, and maybe I'm going to take a chunk out of them. Well, a lot of times that, the dog probably is thinking that. They're not going to do that, but I just wanted you to know that when we say how they can tend to sense the way you feel as a dog, they do that. Same thing when you're being passionate around your people. They can understand and basically know that whether or not you're passionate about what it is you're doing. Now, this one is very key in terms of the customers deserving courtesy. Are we being courteous to our customers? That's very, very important. You can certainly treat customers the same way. And when you're developing relationships, as I'm showing here is the first thing, you've got to be courteous. It really doesn't cost any extra to be courteous to your people. I can't think of any way or any times that I have just gone and flown off the handle and during my work as an extension professional, because that really doesn't accomplish anything. You've got to just calm down, relax, and be courteous. Even though someone may be coming in to chew you out, it really is key that you maintain that professionalism, as we talked about in the previous slide, in developing relationships, and be courteous. That is key in developing relationships. Then the next thing you see here is consistency in your programming and program delivery. At the outset, you remember I talked about what are those things a customer wants. They want their products consistent, and they want to make sure that their products are done the same way every time, and they want to enjoy the product that we're providing. So this is what we mean in our programming. The customer wants a consistent program. They want you to deliver. And when you're delivering your educational programs, they're going to expect it to be that way and to have stellar programs at all times. I know sometimes you'll have days when you really are not feeling the greatest, and you have 100 people coming up to a meeting and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this today. But what you'll have to do is just relax, maybe just sort of get that sense of urgency and say, I can do this. And so make sure that you are trying to do that and be consistent when you're delivering your programs, and that is very, very important. Then you see the third thing here is being responsive, relevant, and reliable. These are things that it probably looks like a tagline for something that you may have seen on a commercial, but it really does apply to us as extension professionals. We want to make sure we respond to our clients, and that the things that we're doing are relevant. We're not doing programming just because we want to do the programs. We're doing them because they're relevant, and these are the things that the people wanted. And then we want to be reliable. We want to make sure that we respond because our customers are they're counting on us. So they're expecting us to be reliable. Okay, this is one that I know in some of our, volunteer organizations or nonprofits. This is one of the things that people like to say, whether it's 4-H or maybe some other youth serving agencies or other organizations or different clubs or things that you may be affiliated with. They tend to think about service above self. And, you're thinking, really? You mean show service above yourself? Well, yeah, that's what we mean. And this is, again, where people see that. They'll know when you're being, treating them with respect and showing them that kind service above yourself. We're here to help people. We're in the people serving business. So we need to make sure that we're serving them willingly. And as I said earlier, we want them to know that, and they're going to know it because you're going to show them that. We want them to know that we're showing them how we're going beyond the call of duty to make sure that we are showing service above self. Very, very important. Okay, now let's talk about being loyal. We often sometimes will want to go and get volunteers, particularly those that have been serving us for years and years on our advisory councils or on our program development committees or whatever it is you're doing. And we tend to sort of say, we shrug it off and say, well, this is expected and they're going to do this for us no matter what. Well, I'm here to tell you that's really not going to always be the case. You need to mean what you say and say what you mean. And so that is very, very key. And when we want to expect loyalty from our volunteers or our people we're working with, we want to be loyal to them as well. So maybe on occasion you may be asked by a volunteer or one of our clients to help them with something. We don't want to tell them no every time, because when we ask them to do something, we're going to expect the same. So let's make sure that we're exchanging that sense of loyalty as a professional. And the way you do that is when you're scheduling things and the way you're managing your extension programs, and you want to make sure that you're true to them and that you're dedicated to what it is you're doing. So when we're exchanging loyalty and we're being dedicated, and showing dedication, we want to make sure that we're exchanging that same favor or that same sense of loyalty to our people and our clientele. One of the 8 things here is, you see here in the slide, it says be the best, is we want to do the maximum possible. We want to not do just enough to get by. And I always like to characterize it as, are we doing the minimum acceptable or the maximum possible? Are we doing all we can to make sure that we're helping people? When we're going to do to try to make a deal or to work with people, or say you're going to try and get a donation. And you're like, am I doing all I can do to get this particular donor hooked to make this deal happen? Or am I going to just go in, sit in front of them and say, hey, we want this $10,000. You can take it or leave it. Of course you're not going to do that way. You're going to make sure you do the maximum possible to do all you can to get the deal sealed. You want to seal the deal. So when you're doing the maximum possible and using all reasonable efforts, think to yourself, well, what will others not do? You want to do what other person or other people will not do. I've prided myself on trying to do that, because lots of times you put yourselves in situations, and I know I have, and I'm like, why did I do this? And then at the outset, when it becomes a successful program or event, you're like, well, I went that extra mile to make this happen. And then 4 or 5 years later, one of those clients are saying, when you came over and helped me out in that test plot, I really wasn't expecting you to come on a Saturday morning when you had something to do, but you did it. And I haven't forgotten that. And I appreciate that. All right, let's think about that, maybe special events, or there may be some other examples where you've done things. And I'm going to give you one example here before I move on to the last two things. I don't want to run out of time here, but this was something that I know every one of you out there listening probably will have ideas of these things. I'm driving down the road, and this gentleman calls me, and I have been working with, they had 3 grandchildren for several years. And this gentleman calls me and he says, I'm over here with my attorney, and we're planning our estate, and I needed to talk with you. He left me a message. And so I called him back, and he told me that and on the message. And I called him back and I said, yes, sir, how can I help you? And I was scared to death. I didn't know what was going on. He said, well, we're in here doing our plan, and we really appreciated what you had done over the years to help us with our 3 grandchildren. And I was here trying to figure out some stock options with a company. And I won't say the company. And he says, we want to leave you the 4-H program, something here in our state, because as a token of appreciation. And I'm like, wow. And I didn't have a clue what they were doing. So, and this had happened several years before, and I didn't have a clue. So I'm thinking, I know that I didn't really think it was any big deal with what I was doing, but evidently they thought so. So again, we want to make sure that we treat our clients in that way, and that, and I know you have other examples of where things like this happen, and they happen every day. So don't take for granted that if you do these little simple things where you took just one more step to make it happen, you just never know what the outcome will be. So just keep that in mind. And this ties in very nicely with the next thing, because small things do matter. And you see the slide over here that says small things, big difference. Small things do make a really big difference. And what are some of those things you can do? Maybe visit a farmer, or, maybe there's some advisory council member that'll call you or email you and say, hey, I'm having this program tonight, and I need you as a sounding board to get this thing passed. Would you come? And just show up, and we may want to get you to make a few comments. And you say, okay. Maybe the 4-H-er or volunteer may want to be involved in something, and you're like, well, I don't want to do that. I can think of some youth events I've gone to, such as maybe a graduation that one of the kids that you were working with was valedictorian or salutatorian, or maybe just showing up when they ask you to go, and they'll tell you, well, he's not going to go, but I'll ask him. And then when you show up on a time that no one will probably think you'll be there, those things really add up. I can remember some kids that I'd gone to some events, and I've gone to so many different dance recitals, and I'm sitting in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, do I really have to sit through this thing? But to this day, I'm so glad that I went and did some of those things, because the parents and those young people were so appreciative of that. Okay, next, let's talk about personal effectiveness. And this is one of those final things in the top 10 that I've sort of come up with here that is very, very important. And these are key. Looking at the attitude. Again, everyone is not going to have a great day every single day. The attitude is very, very important in the way that you respond to people. You can really tend to set the stage lots of times when you're the attitude, the way that you're being looked at when you make that approach. Make sure that you keep that attitude in check. It's very, very important. Sometimes you really may not feel like it, but put that smiley face on, which is what you saw at the beginning slide, that someone really will know that the attitude is really, really key. Your sense of character, all of those things about honesty and integrity and how you lead others, all of those things are a sense of character. You may not think someone's watching you, but as an extension professional, people are watching you because you're in that community and you're having a presence there. And people are looking to you for that leadership. Time and time again, all of those things that we've talked about, community and presence really fits in with your character because you're going to be really well thought of in that community, and how you present yourself time after time after time is key. I'm sure, again, you have other examples of being effective personally, but those things are very, very important and crucial as you look at serving your clients. Now, ladies and gentlemen, and our colleagues, I really have appreciated having you here to tune in today. This is something that we feel are important, and make sure that anytime you can scroll back and look through these again, because these things are all very, very important as you look at those 10 things that are important as you serve your clientele. So thank you all very much for listening, and stay tuned. There'll be other segments that you can tune into in our Extension Organizational Development division here with Cooperative Extension, and we're looking forward to serving you. So thank you, and we hope you enjoyed it.